Fortunately, I'm not close enough to reach the Wi-Fi. We have to move. I just hope that this fan doesn't whack me in the face, because I can't see behind me. Oh my God. Of course there's a car coming. Give me anxiety, cause an accident. Do I have these problems with Wi-Fi? Jeez Louise. I see a spot right yonder, but I have a feeling this person might get it. Oh, let me just... Beep, beep. Excuse me. I don't know what I'm doing and I can't reach the Wi-Fi. That might not work. I bet it don't even work on this side of the building. Lord have mercy, help me. Jesus, help me get in that parking spot without hitting that damn tiny ass car. If I hit that car, I don't need to be driving. Alright. We're in here. Let's see if it reaches now. Corrupt hops and crack rocks. Corrupt cops. My make looks good. Good for me. Yeah, I'll sign in if you let me. Oh, thank you. I'm feeling goofy today. Very goofy. I've been going wide open since this morning. I got so much done today. Oh, that's a little coming in hot. I just need a little air. I don't need you to blow my hair and my lipstick. I accept your proposal, McDonald's, for you to steal my information. I don't know what that is, but I had to sign it to get Wi-Fi, so I hope it wasn't important. Let's see here. Y'all, I went to go clean my car out, and so I'm in the middle of this car wash, right? And they have, where I'm at, they have like a lot of homeless people just like walking around and stuff. And some of them are not homeless. Some of them work. They walk to work. Like, it's kind of like the culture here. People walk around. Everything's in walking distance. Laundromat. You see people walking with like laundry. I'm like, ugh. I saw this grandma walking through a field yesterday, like down the highway. I almost stopped. My front seat was covered in shit. I couldn't. And I don't need to be picking up people. But like, you know, it's that kind of area. But I went to go wash my car. I made some new window covers. I found finally the cardboard. It's cardboard with like black paper on each side. And those actually just insert into the window because the window will hold it in. Unfortunately, there's no metal on the window. I wish it was. I'd make me something. I'd sew something up. Oh God, here we go. There it is. So unfortunately, I've already started on my coffee. I had to just to like through my emails earlier. Luckily, fun fact, don't blow my side up, but Tractor Supply has Wi-Fi, certain ones. So that's good to know. I was over there for 3.5 hours then and had no problems. Why is it when I go to a male-dominated area, there are no Karens in the wild to cause problems? What is that? They like literally pull up, mind their business. Go eat here, go eat here, go in Tractor Supply. Hello, hello. Hey, Ted, James, Jordan, Peterson. Yeah, right. Tell me it's a fake account without the fake account. So we're going to be talking about corrupt cops and crack rocks. Seriously. 100%. There's a lot. It's a lot. Let me find my handy dandy notebook. Oh. I'd shoved this in my cooking thing. Where's my chalk? I had a bunch of chalkboards in the building, and I grabbed one so I can make notes and stuff, but also tomorrow we're going to be talking about DHS, because what we're talking about today is relevant to DHS. There's only two people that really have the authority to tear your life apart, and it's actually law enforcement and DHHS. So we're going to talk about cops today, and then tomorrow we're going to talk about their counterpart, their brother, DHHS. And there's so much stuff on this that I was overwhelmed when I was like just researching a few stories. I just wanted to read some stories, and it's a lot. It's a whole lot. Think, Brooke. That ain't right. Swing with it. Y'all, I am not a chalkboard type of person. Don't send me in front of the class. I'm gonna throw up. I'm gonna hyperventilate from the anxiety of you looking at my handwriting. And imagine like a bunch of people looking at it. Oh my God, this K looks like a stick figure. Yeah, I don't know about that, friend. Yeah, that didn't work out for me, did it? Y'all, I'm at a McDonald's. I haven't had any problems. I've never been to this one before. I drove over here so that like I would have Wi-Fi, and I wasn't like in the area I have been, because that causes problems. If I was to go to the same McDonald's that I went to yesterday. Thank you. Let's see here. We're going to start with a study that was done back in 1972. It was called the Good Cop, Bad Cop study. And actually, I need my other phone. Sorry. It's been raining, y'all. I went and cleaned the car out. It looks good in here. Want to take a gander while I get my phone cut on? So I cleaned out everything. All the sand out. Clean up over there. It looks good in here. Washed the bed sheets this morning. Reorganized. Wiped everything down. All the mirrors, I wiped those down. Oh, and the windshield and the windows. Gotta stay on top of it. I feel like I'm so close on y'all. I feel like I'm normally like back more. I don't know why my phone's acting like that. It could just be me. I could just have body dysmorphia because it's about to be, Let's see here. Found some old nail polish too. I found a lot of stuff. I threw a lot of stuff away and made new window covers. I already have all my tabs open, so we're just gonna roll once I get this piece of information that I am never gonna buy phones from Boost Mobile again. Y'all know I don't even have. It's so hard for me to even jump on Wi-Fi because of Boost Mobile. They lock your phone up. Like if it doesn't have service, if it's just a spare phone that you're using to collect data or take pictures with or whatever, it's damn near impossible. Boost Mobile has it set up to where you go to hook on Wi-Fi and it kicks you off because the time and date is wrong in the phone. Y'all, it sucks. And it's Boost Mobile. Every phone that I've ever gotten from them was not helpful. Let me see if I can find this, because I know that I took a picture of it, but it was a quote that this guy says that was really important, and now I can't even. They did a report, and it talked about how most of. Anyways, we're just gonna roll with it. It was a book and a psychological tack, Good Cop, Bad Cop, a book by Mike McAllery that details a case of police corruption in New York City. Yeah, and can I just get a copy of it? Because, like, a copy of the, I can't find it now. Anyways, there's cops that are meat eaters. I'm going to try to remember from the best of my knowledge. There are cops that are meat eaters. There are cops that are grass feeders. And there are two different kinds of cop. It's kind of like the good cop, bad cop. I can't wait. So let me just start. Good cop, bad cop, problem officers, law enforcement culture. Police officers are the only professionals mandated by society to use discretionary, coercive physical force as a necessary component of fulfilling their duty to maintain public safety and uphold law. If community policing is to prevail, as an effective and credible style of law enforcement, the legitimate use of competent police authority will continue to be a vital issue. This article analyzes the types of officer problems and problem officers that can harm community policing efforts. These include individual factors such as attitudes, personality traits, and psychological disorders, police-citizen interaction factors such as interpersonal dynamics and community attitudes, and organizational factors. Are you for real right now? Speak the devil. Yo, I think I might need glasses. This is tiny as crap. Look at that. I've done proofread this 10 times. I think I have anxiety from being on camera, honestly. Also, when I picked it up, now I can see it. Okay, where were we? Psychological disorders, police-citizen interaction factors such as interpersonal dynamics and community attitudes, and organizational factors such as training and supervision, departmental philosophy, and the cop culture. The article then offers practical strategies for improving officer performance. And some of these things include screening of officers, training, supervision, fitness for duty evaluations, effective supervision and discipline, coaching and counseling strategies, and most productive use of psychological services. So citizens who grew up in America a generation ago recall being taught that the policeman is your friend, the one person you could go to if you were lost or trouble. Most of us still take these expectations for granted because of the skill and dedication of the majority of law enforcement officers who perform their jobs competently and honorably. While there have always been corrupt, abusive, incompetent cops, these were seen as the exception to the rule by most of the citizens who came in contact with them. This perception began to change in the last years as law enforcement officers increasingly found themselves on the wrong end of civil disturbances and investigations into violations of civil rights and police procedure. Especially in the last decade, we have seen an increasing number of news stories involving bad cops involved in isolated or repeated acts of abuse and corruption at levels ranging from individual infractions to department-wide scandals. This led law enforcement behavioral scientists to try to understand the individual and systematic factors that go into making good and bad cops. This is not just an academic exercise, as the success of efforts to adopt a truly effective community policing model in a growing number of jurisdictions will stand or fall based on whether citizens view their police forces as approachable, protective resources or as hostile armies of occupation. So this is saying that, well, clearly, I really like how this is breaking down, and it says that they are supposed to be trained and they're supposed to be picked based on numerous things. But here's the problem. Police departments are understaffed, and they're willing to take anybody at this point. As long as you don't have a criminal record and you don't seem to be some weird, they'll take you. You go through the academy. It doesn't take much. Easy peasy. And that's the problem. And they're also, it seems like to me, I feel like they hire them younger nowadays than they used to. But that could just be, I don't know. I could have met a lot of older cops. Police and other law enforcement agents are unique among professionals in that the law and society gives them the general right and in many circumstances charges them with the obligation to use coercive physical force to influence the behavior of citizens. And once again, tomorrow we'll talk about how DHHS actually has the power to do that too. So it says that the problems really started about 30 years ago. All of a sudden, there was civil disturbances and investigation violations and people's civil rights. When was this wrote? I think this was wrote in 2004. So if it was wrote in 2004, yeah, sounds about right. We're going to talk about some cases today from this era. The 80s and 90s, New York was insane. Brooklyn, there was just punks that were just all involved with the mafia. I mean, I knew a little bit about it, but like the Gambino family was essentially running a whole precinct, which is wild. But yeah, I think that we need to train these officers better. I think that there needs to be a shift of focus on long-term sustainability and reduce violence. And it's just not like that, though. Every time that I've had interactions with law enforcement, they are looking for a problem. They come at you looking for a problem, you know, and there's a level of respect that they used to have for the people that they were dealing with in the community, and you don't see that anymore. They want to take people to, in North Carolina. No, I don't know how it is in California. I heard they don't even lock people up there. So, you know, I'm sorry. Hello, hello. Hey, Laura. All right. So speaking of police corruption, the Metropolitan Police Department has been in trouble numerous times. They've been accused of racism, misogyny, homophobia, and it's been said for years that it needed an overhaul. There was a 363-page report that came out, and they found evidence of bullying, poor management, and they said that the police station was like the boys' club culture. And that's what I told you guys, that it's like a high school. These people behave like high schoolers. Okay, and when you get people that never grew up and they go into a line of work like this, where there's like a brotherhood and alliance, they're friends, they're hanging out after work, they're real tight, okay? When one of them starts bullying, they all start bullying, you know, and when, you know, there is several dozens of precincts caught sharing the same type of text messages throughout the precinct. So this is not, this one happened in New York, but this has happened all over this country. There's been officers who have been busted taking crime photos and sending them like to random people and texting about things, crimes that they were investigating or a part of, you know what I mean, as far as the nation. So there was 2 of them that were arrested. There was 2 women that were killed, and 2 biracial women, they were murdered, and the cops took pictures of the bodies and they were communicating about these women's death in a very vulgar way. These officers were charged, but it happens all the time. And the Metropolitan, the Met, their reputation is not good. But let's just jump into this. So Sarah Everard, a 33-year-old marketing executive, was kidnapped in London and murdered by a serving police officer, Wayne Couzens, in March of 2021. Couzens was sentenced to a whole life order, the most severe punishment. Y'all, why does that say the UK? Oh, this is Sky News. This must be in London, you guys. Wrong one. Well, the Metropolitan, too. New York, Brooklyn, all of them. 77th. I read about the 77th precinct, the 90-something precinct, another 70-something precinct. All of them up there was dirty, and we're going to get into that in a minute. This happened in the UK, but we're still going to talk about it because Sarah Everard was murdered by a cop. And it says that he got a whole life order, but he admitted to the kidnap, R-word, and murder of her. The Met was also criticized when some officers used excessive force against women who had gathered in London for a vigil. In March of 2023, Coos was sentenced to another 19 months behind bars for 3 offenses of indecent exposure shortly before he abducted and R-worded and murdered Sarah. Is that? No, that's not him. That is crazy. So he's out flashing people. This was Sarah. She's the one that he killed. He was a cop in the UK, and he like hunted this girl down. So Stephen Port, this was the guy that was killing people on Tinder. Hold on one second. And that did happen in America, right? So this guy, the cops could have picked him up 3 times. They had more than solid evidence to arrest him, and they just didn't do their job. They failed to do their job. And this guy was a British serial killer, so he's in the UK. Y'all know that the UK is crumbling just like the United States, right? Like, it's just as important. They've had the same immigration issues, the same inflation issues, the same issues that we're having on our home front in America. The UK has been going through it as well. They've had corruption in their government. They've had everything going on over there. So this guy, Stephen Port, he murdered 4 men over a 15-month period of time. A 23-year-old named Anthony Walgate, Gabrielle Covier, 22, Daniel Whitworth, 21, and 25-year-old Jack Taylor were killed in East London between June of 2014 and September of 2015. That's like a year. And it says that the Met failed, and that the failings by the Met contributed to 3 of the 4 deaths. So it said that they could have made links, but the officers just didn't know how to do their job. And so they failed to make those connections between all of the men that were murdered. And because of that, 3 other men were killed. So we're going to talk about New York now. But, also, before we start on that, let's talk about the cop that got caught with child porn, because he was on the news again this morning. Remember, we talked about him, Kevin Minow. It was the cop that was out. He was a plainclothes officer that was supposed to go into the streets of Las Vegas and apprehend criminals, or it was a weird program that Las Vegas only has. It was like their own special department. I mean, it really sounds sketchy if you think about it. First of all, why are plainclothes officers out just looking for trouble? But that's essentially what his team was doing. Now, there was reports that he had wrongfully arrested people. Evidence to support that from body cam footage. At some point, he was interrogated, his phone, and it just says the phone or a computer. He is 42 years old, and he has 2 counts of possessing visual presentation depicting conduct of a... Yeah. So, he actually also faced additional 2 more charges because he yet again got caught with more. So, and that happened Monday. He was busted with more. Clark County District Court Judge Ronald Israel allowed, what was his damn name? I can't say his name. Kevin, to remain out of custody for 24 hours because he had already made bond. Oh, that's right. He's already made bond 3 times, and twice, and this will be the 3rd time. I wonder who's paying all the bond money. Cops make that much money? I mean, we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. It was 2. Let's see what his bond was. Kevin Minnow. 150. He's already made bond twice. I don't know how much both of them were, but you have to have 15% of 150. But I mean, what an idiot. Like, his lawyer was on the news talking about he didn't believe that this guy was a bad guy. Whatever. It's just funny. I mean, that's what he pays him to do, right? To lie. He pays him to lie. We're going to talk about Stephen and Lewis. First of all, let me let you look at this, because y'all know I ain't going to say their names. Y'all know I ain't going to say their names. Caffeine. Australia Sky News. I like them songs, you know. They're not too shabby. Hey, Cash App. Thank you. My little board. Let's see here. Stephen and Lewis were former new police officers, and they were working for 5 families of the American Mafia. So these guys were known as Mafia cops. So crazy to say, right? In 2005, the United States Attorney for the Eastern District of New York indicated that Stephen and Lewis, they indicted them on charges of racketeering, conspiracy, and a pattern for murders, kidnappings, witness tampering, obstruction of justice, money laundering, narcotics dealings with mobsters and mob associates spanning from the mid-1980s to the mid-2000s. Both were convicted in 2006 and sentenced to life in imprisonment. Did they kill people? Stephen worked in the organized crime homicide unit of the New York City Police Department. I mean, the mob's got it made. He knows the ins and outs of forensic. He knows the ins and outs of what's going to take place. He can help the mob do all kinds of stuff, being a crime homicide detective. Crazy. He lived in Staten Island as a private investigator and retired in the mid-1990s. Moves to Las Vegas. And he was working inside the Las Vegas Correctional Facility at the time of his arrest in 2004. Running from much? Lewis, and I'm going to show you guys pictures of these people. Something that I found interesting when I was reading Lewis's background, these are 2 New York City police officers that were crooked in the 80s. They were responsible for helping the Gambino family commit murders, crimes, and all kinds of stuff. So, Lewis, Ippolito, he was the son of a nurse, but his father, Ralph Ippolito, he was an associate to the Gambino crime family. I don't think that it's a coincidence that Lewis grew up to become a cop. If you know anything, the Mafia, they actually would groom children into law enforcement, have the people in there, you know what I mean? They would groom children, the good kids on the block that weren't little troublemakers. The Mafia families would take them under their wing and guide them and help them into law enforcement. It was very common back then, and obviously, I mean, you know, still is. We read about a cop yesterday whose father was corrupt, and he shot himself. The son shot himself on a highway. So anyways, I found it that his father was actually an associate of the Gambino crime family, but yet enforcement didn't think to check any parent's background. That's another thing. I really feel like the entire family needs to be looked at when we were talking about hiring law enforcement. Who is the father? Who is the mother at the very least? You know, those things need to be taken into consideration, because we're talking about ethics, morals, values, all of those things. So so Lewis, his cousin and uncle were also in the Gambino family, belonging to the Nino crew. Growing up, they were all acquainted mobsters. His uncle, his cousin, his uncle and cousin were eventually murdered by the Gambino soldier Roy DiMeo. So when Lewis applied to become a New York City PD officer in 1969, he falsely stated on his application that he had relatives in organized crime. The whole family was part of the Gambino crime family. So he eventually rose to rank as a detective in 1977, a job which garnered him a numerous number of headlines. In 1983, he was suspected and cleared of passing a PD intelligence report to one of the Gambinos, and Carlo Gambino. He retired as a police officer in 1990. He wrote a book. This guy is crazy. He wrote a book about dealing with the crime family, the Mafia family, and he spoke about his attempts to avoid being dragged in the Mafia and having to fight for his reputation as the result of the Gambino case, which he cited a reason for leaving the NYPD. I'm sure you can't tell them no. It ain't like if your neighbor knocks on the door and asks for a cup of sugar and you ain't got it and you just say no. The Mafia ain't like that. They don't take no for an answer. Well, from what I've seen in movies, it didn't seem like they did. So these guys were in it. Like, and they were getting paid off. They were charged with racketeering, obstruction of justice, extortion, acts of murder, and conspiracy. These include the murders of blah, blah, blah. Also, conspiracy to murder. Ain't that scary? Like, these guys were supposed to be protecting and serving, and they're out here committing, I mean, those are severe crimes. Like, that's as bad as it gets. Imagine a cop killing you. Like, so scary. So they were sentenced on March 6th of 2009. That year sounds familiar. So Lewis was sentenced to life imprisonment plus 100 years. They were both fined more than $4 each, and he got 80 years. Got 80 years. Look at these guys. They kind of look like assholes, if I'm just being honest. Don't they? They look like they were messing with the crime family. Yeah, doesn't it? Yeah, it was supposed to read H. Brook 87. I think that's it. I don't even know. I don't even know. Let's see here. Speaking of being killed by a cop, there was a guy in Alabama that actually, he had some physical disabilities, asthma. He wasn't in the best health. I'll show you him. And he was actually suing the police department for police brutality. And he ended up dead. So this was updated this month. Was that today? Is that the day? Oh, it was updated yesterday. I don't even know today. So the FBI is now looking into his death. He was 38 years old, and I hope I'll say this right. I think it's Denoris Richardson. He was found hanging in some random house on the Mississippi line. He's from Alabama, first of all. It was an abandoned home that was miles from his home in Alabama. And the article says that the police might be involved. So it seems like lawsuit came after years and years of police harassment. So it says this comes after Richardson's family filed a police brutality lawsuit against the local Alabama Police Department, claiming that they were involved in the incident. Last month, his attorney filed a motion demanding the Sheffield Police Department hand over body cam footage related to an interaction between Richardson and several officers from earlier this year. The fact that it says several officers breaks my heart for him, because I can only imagine. For those that don't know, I was pulled into a holding cell and beat by several cops. I don't even know how many. So The filing is part of a civil lawsuit alleging Richardson was subjected to unconstitutional arrest and violence at the hands of the local officer despite being disabled. So, like I said, this man was disabled. I had read that I didn't want to say he was disabled. I thought that I'd read something like that. I don't know. I know that he had some physical ailments too. I read that he had really asthma. I don't know if that disability is a physical ailment or if he was developmentally slow. I couldn't find out. The suit claims that Richardson was being harassed by government during 2022. So like I said, and these were multiple incidents. Jesus Christ. Speaking of the devil, I guess when we talking about them, they just riding by, right? Across the incident, the suit claims that officers viciously beat him and compromised his asthma by hitting him with mace in the face, and also denied him food while he was detained inside the jail. One incident in the suit claimed that one of the officers kept yelling at him, "No one can help you, no one can help you," while he was strapped to a chair where he had been restrained for 3 hours. After most interactions, the suit claims that Richardson was actually charged with assault after he's in jail getting assaulted, denied food. And once again, let's remember that he was medically deemed disabled. I don't even know what happened to empathy anymore. Like, I know that it must be stressful to be a cop and deal with all of these crazy people, but have you no heart, sir? So, this guy was married to a girl named Leanne, and Leanne, after his death, Leanne is one that has been fighting him, and she came out and said that the Sheffield police harassed him his entire life. I know that feeling. By the time he filed the lawsuit, the cops had just arrested him again on drug charges. Richardson's wife alleged they offered to drop the charges if he dropped the suit. He refused. However, his determination of justice may have just been a grisly overshadowing of what would be months later. So he was actually let out on probation following the arrest and decided to turn him in after learning that he would have to serve time across the country, forcing him to move from his 5 children. All of a sudden left the house, and then his wife and children just stopped hearing from him. He just went missing. He was going across the country to surrender his persons to someone so that he wouldn't be in any legal trouble. And he just goes missing in December on the 26th. And she reported him missing. 2 days later, he was found dead. He was hanging by a rope on the porch of an abandoned home near the Mississippi line where his family said he had no business being. According to the court filing, Richardson's family still haven't received his death certificate. However, the autopsy ordered by the Colbert County District Attorney's Office ruled his death a suicide. We spoke to the family members. Sorry. You know what's crazy is Sheriff Ballantyne, who is the Colbert County, Alabama, his statement completely conflicts with family's statement. So this is what the officer said. After they said that this was a suicide, we spoke to family members, and they said the last time they spoke to him, he had been depressed, worried about his future as far as the charges were looking, and he was just down and out. He was giving some of his property away, and it appeared to be apparent suicide. His family disputes that was ever even said, and I believe them. I believe them. I'm not saying the cops killed him, but it's definitely fishy. Richardson family doesn't think that he died by suicide. Now the effort to get justice for police brutality has taken a whole new shape to investigate if the cops had anything to do with this death. Because once again, the FBI has now come in and they're saying, hold up, wait a minute, this is weird. This man had a lawsuit against you guys, and then all of a sudden he died from an apparent suicide. First of all, I just want to say that is literally one of the probably easiest ways to, like, fake somebody's death. I mean, it wouldn't last long, because there has to be certain breakage in certain areas. But, you know, it can look one way and be something different. And if you're working, here's the thing, the sheriff's department works directly with the coroner. So, mother of Richardson's, my son was joyful. He didn't have any mental issues. He would never kill himself. He would not hurt himself. Her name is Bonita Richardson. He was really in fear of his life. And she said she thought it was homicide. Now, the wife also concurred with the mother. He was scared. He was in fear of his life because of he probably had CPTSD from going to jail and getting beat by the cops. And, you know, like, it's something to a human. It makes you nervous every time you look in your rearview mirror. It makes you scared. Like, you understand, especially if they've, you know, already destroyed your life. And it sounds like maybe, I don't know. I didn't look and see if he was struggling because it didn't say anything about that. It did say that he had drug charges. So I don't know what was going on. Were those drug charges actual drug charges, or were those more fake charges? I don't know. So the family is currently waiting for the results of a private autopsy which could take months. Meanwhile, motion filed Wednesday requests the body camera video and jail surveillance footage from the incidents prior to his death. So the filing by the Richardson family alleges that the footage was previously denied to them by the sheriff's department. Go figure. No wonder they sued y'all. Y'all didn't even want to, you know, help them. Well, obviously, if they beat the hell out of him, of course, that's why they're not going to hand it up. So let's talk about this resource officer, y'all. This is wild. I hope that he didn't kill himself, but it's very, something that you have to pay to is like, to build a whole picture, in my opinion, of like a situation, you got to have the before, the during, and the after to conclude a story opinion. The fact that he was in the process of suing these people, I don't even know how much it was. It was probably millions, but the fact that he's in the middle of suing So it says the lawsuit states that they beat the hell out of him. See how much the lawsuit was for. The fact that he was in the middle, his family and him was in the middle of suing them, and then he goes missing and he's found hung in Mississippi, it's sketchy. It's very, very sketchy. And I have no doubt that he was probably very concerned about the charges. But isn't it weird that, like, the officer, the sheriff's department had a whole different statement than the wife, the family of him? Completely different statement. Tried to make it seem like he was depressed and, like, he wanted to die. And that was not the case from what the mother and the wife says. They twist stuff. They can just say whatever they want. So he had a civil rights attorney, and it was a federal lawsuit. So this was no joke. This was everybody's getting fired, overhaul, we're cleaning house because y'all don't know how to run the sheriff's department in jail. So this was no light matter. This was a federal investigation. It's now a federal investigation because it's a suspicious death. So thank God the FBI stepped in, because this could have got swept under the rug. It's just some suicide. So the FBI is going to investigate it and determine whether or not he killed himself or not. But who else went to jail when they sued the cops? Do y'all remember? Stephen Avery. Remember? Now, I don't know how I feel about that. I'll have to like binge everything I can on that to get a good feel. I mean, he actually kind of creeped out. So I'm not saying he should be in jail just because he's creepy, but, you know, if he is innocent, it's horrible. For those that don't know, Steve was convicted of a crime that he actually did not commit and served, I think, 16 years or 12 to 16, years for R-wording a woman that he didn't. And then fast forward, he gets out of jail, and this reporter goes missing. And supposedly they find this reporter's car on his property. And then they supposedly found the key in his house. And then they supposedly found his blood in her car. And y'all, the Avery case is wild. I don't know how I feel about it. I need to revisit that, and we'll talk about that one day. But we're going to jump into this resource officer that is also a creep to me. So it says a school cop was accused of sexual misconduct with... He kept his job for years. Something that was astonishing, this came out September 2nd of this year, something that was astonishing to me, this is out of Columbia, South Carolina, is that this guy was actually high placed at an elementary school before he even graduated the academy. Talk about desperation for officers. So it says the teen was nervous to hear the results of the investigation. Weeks had passed since the 15-year-old had reported the school resource officer that he had SA'd her in his office in the middle of the school day. So the Richland County Sheriff's Department set up a meeting with this 10th grader and her therapist so that this girl could sit down with them and tell them what this officer had done to her. It was the resource officer at her high school. And this officer is 38-year-old Deputy Jamal Bradley, and he had previously been the subject of at least 5 complaints in his 9 years at the Spring Valley High School. Once again, desperation for an officer that's got a spot to fill. They're just going to ignore all of these young girls coming forward screaming, he's creepy, he's creepy. Let's just ignore it. Parents, fellow deputies, and administrators and coaches had all raised concerns that Bradley was acting inappropriately with teenage girls. Hats off to them. See something, say something. At least they tried. 2 of his colleagues had reported that they saw Bradley alone with a female student late at night in a secluded parking lot. If you see something like that, you just need to go. You need to go yoke them out. Like, seriously, if I would have seen this, I probably would have walked up and been like, hey, are y'all okay? Are you okay? Like, what are y'all doing over here? What are y'all up to? Y'all know I'm a chatty Cathy. Captain Heidi Jackson was aware of some of the past allegations when she met with the 10th grader and her therapist back in May of 2018. When the girl... So, they're not going to list the girl's name. We're going to call her Diana. They're talking about her interview. And this captain is with the police station. She's with law enforcement. And she sat down after this girl told the principal and a therapist what the resource officer did to her. They then brought in a captain, and she told the captain. And Miss Jackson, the captain, said that she believed her story. So, why would you even say that to a 15-year-old child that's a victim of a crime? The captain told the young girl some people on the force did not want to see this side of the school's resource officer. It's not the girl's fault. Like, oh my Lord. See, these officers need to be trained, and there needs to be empathy training, understanding, situational awareness. We need to learn how to teach these things. It's basic psychology, and these officers need to be trained in bedside manner when dealing with victims of crimes, especially teenagers, young children, stuff like that. So this officer been recruited through the University of South Carolina. He was a former basketball player at the college, and they placed him at an elementary school before he had even graduated from the police academy, like I said, which is sketchy. He was painted as a role model in the community with glowing evaluations and praises-filled newspaper profiles. Y'all, I saw a 13-second clip in it. He's a creep. He was on Snapchat. Hold on, let me reenact. He was on Snapchat going, like, Sir, you are a 38-year-old man. Get it together. Like, seriously, he's a creep. I could tell from a 13-second clip that he was too immature to be in his position. Bradley and Jackson told the teen that a unicorn in the force considered rare and precious above the approach. The sheriff's department, this young girl found out that they were not going to arrest him. He was not going to be removed from her high school, and after being briefly reassigned to another school, he actually returned to the halls of Spring Valley. And she said that she couldn't go back to school. So at the time that Diana stepped forward, Spring Valley School's resource officer, already under scrutiny, a video of a different deputy forcibly arresting a black during class had gone viral, an incident that ended with the Justice Department oversight of the school policing program in the state's capital. But even while being monitored by federal authorities, Richland County's officials failed to thoroughly investigate complaints of sexual misconduct against Bradley. According to a review of hundreds of documents through public records requests, court filings, and interviews with students, parents, educators, law enforcement officials, and others. So this is public court records. They were able to conclude that there was numerous complaints of sexual misconduct and that it should have been investigated and he should have been out of there. It's just sad that this poor girl had to go through this. I mean, there was multiple. It wasn't just one. Bradley did not respond to messages, blah, blah, blah. Of course, he's not going to say anything. He's a creep. The tea. I didn't even know this was in here. The Post identified more than 200 elementary, middle, and high school police officers who were charged with crimes involving children, SA, from 2005 through 2022. Some of these officers faced prior complaints of flirting, sexting, or touching students. Reports that were often downplayed by supervisors as little more than cop working to earn a student's trust. Listen, I had multiple resource officers when I was coming up. The only time they spoke to me was when they arrested me in middle school. So, in Georgia, police allowed an officer to work in an elementary school after he was twice accused of inappropriate with students. He later pled guilty to molesting an 11-year-old with developmental disabilities. In Minnesota, no action was taken after a deputy was seen with a 7th grade boy in his lap. He covered his office windows with paper and went on to be convicted of SAing multiple students. In Kansas, officials repeated complaints about a high school officer's interaction with teenage girls. Didn't remove him until he got a 15-year-old pregnant. Educators have long worked to prevent SA in schools with policies that warn teachers, aides, and coaches not to send private texts or social media messages to students, be alone behind closed doors, or engage in sexual conversations. But for school resource officers who are encouraged to serve as mentors for vulnerable students, those rules rarely exist. And that's even the worst of it. Since we're talking about this, let's go ahead and just jump into this one. Because it's not just happening with school resource officers in children's schools. There was a report that was done. They found that over 400 R-words were committed to police officers in the United States over a 9-year period of time. So let's see if I can get into this. When was this written? Is this recent? I'm usually better about that. 2018. God. If it was that many then, just imagine how many it is now. That was before things went crazy. Oh my God, y'all. A police officer in Prince George's County, Maryland, was charged this week with hurting a woman during a traffic stop. He's pled not guilty, But it's a disturbing headline, even more disturbing when you consider that there are hundreds more like him. And y'all know Daniel Radcliffe, right? We need to talk about him one day. Hundreds, yes, hundreds. According to the research from Bowling Green State University, police officers in the U.S. were charged with forcible R-word 405 times between 2005 and 2013. That's an average of 45 R-words a year. Forcible fondling was more of a concern, with over 636 instances. Yet experts say those statistics are by no means comprehensive. Data on sexual assaults by police are almost non-existent, they say. And that's why it's happening. And when I was researching, there's so much that I didn't even know what to throw in here. There's been multiple officers this year that were busted using their position of power to help out criminals, not catch criminal charges. They would pull girls over that they knew were drug addicts. They would charge drug offenses, and then they would wave that ticket in their face and say, you know? Yeah. They were busted and arrested, and it wasn't just one. It's been officer after officer after officer. I mean, it's like a weekly thing. It's just really sad because these people are supposed to be helping people, not using their position of power to sexually harm people. So it says, researchers compiled their list by documenting cases of sworn non-federal law enforcement officers who have been arrested. The 2016 federally funded paper, Police Integrity Lost, a study of law enforcement officers arrested. So there's a paper out there on this. If you're curious, you can go read it. And it talks and why this problem is getting worse. And there are no comprehensive statistics available on problems with police integrity. Police sexual misconduct and cases of police sexual violence are often referred to as hidden offenses, and studies on police sexual misconduct are usually based on small samples or derivative from officer surveys that are threatened by a reluctance to reveal these cases. And, you know, those are just women or people. I'm sure there's got to be some men in there, too. You know, sorry. Just go ahead and do that. There's a lot of people that don't tell. So this is the fact that we know that there was just 400 and over 400. If you add the fondling in with the SA, that's over 1,000 instances from, 2005 to 2013. So that's quite a bit. I mean, that's crazy. And that's just the ones that we know about. 2005 to 2013, 205 times. Forcible R-word, and then forcible fondling was more common with over 606 instances. So that's over 1,000 instances in just, 9 years? And we don't have statistics on anything relating back to this, you know, and it's crazy because we absolutely should. And why are these guys becoming like this? Because this was not up until, once again, as of 2004, this was not a thing till 30 years prior. Now, we had cases back, and I went and looked. There are cases back 1800s, 1900s, 1300s, 1600s. There's cases back there of police corruption, but they were few, far, and in between. And when they were busted, they were made an example out of. So I think it has a lot to do with the way people are being raised, the morals and values they're being taught, religion. I think that it has a lot to do with who they're hiring, their background. And as we read to start with, there's psychological factors that should be taken into account when we're hiring people for this type of position. That is insane. 400. And those were all by officers. So we got them out here in the school. We got them out here in the walking the streets, claiming that they're protecting us. In a year-long investigation of sexual misconduct by the U.S. law enforcement, the Associated Press uncovered about 1,000 officers who lost their badges in a 2-year period for R-word, SODO, and other SAs, sex crimes that included possession of child, or S misconduct, such as propositioning citizens or having consensual but yet prohibited on-duty intercourse. 1,000 officers who lost their badge in just 6 years. I mean, and some of those things are violent. I heard 2 women that were a victim of an officer. It was the same officer. He was, once again, he would write a ticket on them, and then he'd say, if you want to get a ticket, you got to do this, 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 and this for me. And both of the women described it was forcible, it was rough, and they were evil. And this article says it's probably happening in every law enforcement agency across the country. It's so underreported, and people scared that if they call and complain about a police officer, they think every other police officer is going to be then out to get them. Absolutely, because they are. Like, so even as cases around the country have sparked a national conversation about excessive force by police, sexual misconduct by officers has largely escaped widespread notice due to a patchwork of laws. People, not reporting, and victims frequently reluctant to come because of their vulnerabilities. They often are young, poor, and struggling with addiction and plagued by their own checkered past. Perfect victim. Ooh, what is the S? In interviews, lawyers and even police chiefs told the AP that some departments also stay quiet about inappropriate behavior to limit liability, allowing bad officers to resign quietly, keep their certification, and jump to other jobs. That's the problem. That's the whole problem. Are we serious right now? I mean, I knew it was happening, but it's nice to read it. So, how many resource officers were busted for being weirdos? And then how many other officers that were patrol cops? And then this 1,000? How many 1,000 have we already counted up today? Let me know in the comments. And these are the ones that were just busted. What about the ones that wasn't? So, yeah, we're just going to jump into this. This is from the Washington Post. I'm breathing. I wish I could see. This was this year in June. The Washington Post investigation has found that over the past 2 decades, hundreds of law enforcement officers in the United States have SA'd, while officials at every level of the criminal justice system have failed to protect these kids, punish abusers, and prevent additional crimes. Police and sheriff's departments have enabled predators by doing background checks, ignoring red flags, and mishandling investigations. Accused cops have used their knowledge of the legal system to stall cases, get charges lowered, or even evade convictions. Prosecutors have given generous plea deals to officers who admitted to R-wording and groping minors. Judges have allowed many convicted officers to avoid prison time. What did I tell you guys? They're all friends. They're all friends. This is how these things... you have to imagine a high school or a college campus. And with the mentality there too. The psychological mentality is there too. Of a high school child. It's sick. It's sick what the system is. All the while, children in every state and the District of Columbia have continued to be targeted, groomed, violated by officers sworn to keep them safe. Now, this was just wrote in June of this year. James Blair, a Lowell, North Carolina police officer, 13-year-old girl who ran away from home, he offered to help her with, He offered to help her with schoolwork and presented himself as a mentor. Months later, court records show he got the girl pregnant. What a sicko. Neil Kimball, a Los Angeles Sheriff County's deputy, was accused of sexually abusing a woman after stopping her near a hotel. Prosecutors concluded that there was insufficient evidence to file criminal charges. Kimball was still allowed to become a special victims bureau detective. Then he sexually abused a 15-year-old girl whose case he had been signed to investigate. Brian Hansen, Nevada, Missouri police officer, brought a 16-year-old girl who was interested in becoming a cop on ride-alongs. According to the state investigators, he sexually abused her in his patrol car at a police shooting range. When Henson pleaded guilty to statutory, you know what, he was sentenced to probation. Probation. For, I mean, that's brutal. It's brutal. Iron Squad, anybody? Let's bring it back. I'm joking. Violence is not the answer. But I'm just saying that maybe if we make an example of a dozen of them, they'll stop. I don't know. Cases like this are not unique. The Post identified at least 1,800 state and local law enforcement officers who were charged with crimes involving child abuse from 2005 to 2022. How many thousands are we up to now? Thousands of corrupt officers. Reporters spent more than a year unearthing thousands of court filings, police records, and other documents to understand who these officers are and how they gained access to children and what is and isn't being done to stop them. So it says the Post also conducted an exclusive analysis of the nation's most comprehensive base of police arrests. This database, managed by the Bowling Green State University, tracks news reports of arrest of law enforcement. We were reading about the Bowling Green University earlier. They gave us more numbers. Of the hundreds of thousands of sworn officers in the United States, only a small fraction are ever charged with crimes, and not all arrested are reported in the news media. But from 2005 through 2020, Bowling State Green identified about 17,700 state and local officers who were charged with crimes including physical assault, drunk driving, and drug offenses. 17,700. Add that to the other ones. I done lost count, y'all. So the Post found that 1 in 10 of those officers were charged with a crime involving child SA. I need more caffeine. I'm sorry. Whew, this is a lot. This is mentally taxing, seriously, because I want a protein. Will you hand me a protein in the door, please? It's like, stick your hand down in the door. I think I'm gaining some weight, y'all. Does it look like I put on some weight? I hope so, because I've been trying. Oh, God. Oh, my Lord. Oh, my darling. Oh, my darling. I'm gonna break a freaking hip. Pop it out of joint, you gonna know it, girl. All right, my truck is neat and clean, so I want to keep it organized. I went and got window covers and baby wipes. I got my favorite ones. If you want to mail me some, I mean. Be one of them. I know, Donald Trump, he won. Thank you. Hello to Sweden. Hello to Sweden. All right, let's jump back in. This type of police misconduct has gone largely unrecognized by the public and unaddressed within the criminal justice system. What have I been saying? It just feels so good when you find, like, when somebody's out, when you know that other people are out here fighting for what you want to fight for. It just makes you feel so good because, y'all, it breaks my heart to think about all the people that have been victimized by the justice system that's supposed to be there to help them. Same thing with DHHS, and tomorrow we're going to talk about them. So it says, when pressed by the Post, some police officials, prosecutors, and judges admitted that they could have done more to hold officers accountable in the cases they handled. But nationwide, there has been little reckoning over child abuse within the ranks of law enforcement, and it's actually very common. I saw case after case after case where officers would interject themselves into young girls' lives that were already victims of crimes previously. So messed up. Whoa. Whoa. Y'all gotta see this. Look at these mugshots. 99% of officers arrested were drug offenses, SA, aggravated R word. 66% of them had more than 5 years of service. I think Trump is going to guide us in the right direction. I think that best man for the job. And I used to hate him. 47 of those arrested were chiefs. Like the chief of police. Were chiefs of police, top sheriffs, or other agency heads. You know, some of these. He look like he's an asshole. Some of them look like they can be mean. It's like they're dead behind the eyes. Am I tripping? Look at his eyes. He looks like a prick. A tiny face, big old damn melon head. I'm sorry, I'm gonna stop talking about people. These are criminals. I'm loud. Can I go off on them? Do y'all mind? Anybody gonna take offense? Nearly 40% of convicted officers were not sent to prison. Yeah. You think? Well, we just said, they just said that prosecutors, district attorneys, judges, they all admitted to being complicit in giving these officers better deals. So it's no surprise that, you know, half of them didn't even go to jail. Nearly 3/4 of kids in the Post analysts were teenagers. Officers were rarely related to the children they were accused of fondling or exploiting. So this is what I was talking about earlier with the grooming and the officers interjecting themselves into these children's lives. It says police and court documents show that the abusive officers frequently spent months befriending and grooming kids. Many used the threat of arrest or physical harm to make their victims comply. After cops were charged with child crimes, some agencies tried to distance themselves in news by saying the alleged misconduct happened while the officers were off duty. But not all law enforcement leaders believe that distinction matters. In Lake Wells, Florida, where 3 officers have been charged with crime involving child abuse since 2005, Police Chief Chris Valaquez said these kinds of accusations must be taken seriously no matter what or where the alleged misconduct occurred. So the Post, through their study analysis of all of the public records, they found that in cases across the country, even if the abuse occurred while officers were off duty, they regularly met through their work, like I said. So it's just crazy that there's not more psychological attention. I don't know. There needs to be more psychological attention to these guys. I'm sweating like a whore in church, y'all. Will you hand me a tissue? It's hot. It's sticky today. I just don't want to run the gas because God knows I barely have any. So it says a lot of these officers would these young girls and then start taking pictures of these young girls. It says they were charged with a wide variety of crimes involving child SA. Some officers face charges related to the possession, production, and distribution of child. You know what? I mean, how crazy. I mean, it's not surprising to me. I know how people will come into your life and damn try to use you. So though the specific names of charges can vary across states, the majority of arrested officers were charged with crimes involving the direct abuse of children, including hard and forcible fondling. So sad, y'all. And we on David Huggins that got the 15-year-old girl. We need to visit that one day. But got a 15-year-old girl pregnant. And the last thing I want to talk about today is kind of crazy. I saw this first thing this morning. I saw this report that over 600 sober drivers had been arrested in Tennessee for DWI. I said, God, good thing I ain't been driving through there. They would have got me again. They would have got me again and been like, oh, and y'all would have believed it. Y'all would have been like, well, she did have a DWI back in the day. Maybe she got another one. I would have been innocent as hell. Note to self, don't go driving through Tennessee, because my record alone, my past criminal record, God, I would be a target, you know what I mean? Hello. More than 600 sober drivers arrested for DUI in Tennessee. And it says, it's so bad, it's comical. It says it says, WSMV4 investigates uncovered 609 drivers were arrested for DWI in Tennessee who were completely sober at the time of their arrest between 2017 and 2023. No. Here's what I would recommend. If you're ever pulled over and they think that you're drunk and you're not, you need to ask for a breathalyzer. I'll blow. You know what I mean? If you're sober, just comply. Please. I mean, if you're not sober, really comply. But I don't know. I know that I don't drink and drive, so I don't drink anymore. So, and if I do drink, I'm stationary. But it's just crazy that this even went this far, because you would think that they would have a breathalyzer on scene. Why are they not using a breathalyzer? Why does Tennessee not breathalyzer? Y'all, I'd be so mad if I was going through. And I'm like, no, I'm just a girl in a big truck. It says they do have a breathalyzer. Then how were all these people arrested? They were all sober drivers. They were taken for false positives. Y'all do know that if they give you a field sobriety test and you can't hold your feet up and kick like a dolphin for 20 minutes, then you're going to jail and driving. And I don't understand why these people were not. That's what I'm trying to figure out, is why they were not given a breathalyzer. Now, their blood was taken at the state lab, and when it came back, it was cleared. Now, some of these people, it was actually more than that. No. Hell no. Not going to face. It was actually more than that was arrested. But some of those people had drugs in their system, so it stuck. They didn't have alcohol. It was drugs. Which is crazy. These people don't know how to write anymore. I'm trying to damn look for a I can read, and it's impossible to find one. This wind's killing me. It's because of my air on. I'm getting sticky, and I don't want to get gross. I need a gym membership so freaking bad. Come on. Real air. Here we go. I guess we're going to have to watch. Well, you won't be able to hear it. I can't even. Why don't they write news anymore, you guys? I'm trying to find the details of this case. All it said in the damn news article was that they arrested over 600 people, and that they all ended up being wrongfully arrested. And there's a lawsuit. Let's see if this is it. And it's just free video. It just says more than 600 sober drivers arrested for DUI in Tennessee. Let me go to DuckDuckGo. I hate Google. I really do. I really hate Google. When I pulled up the article, I didn't recognize that it was video. From what I saw earlier, I watched the news on it. It was saying that people have been pulled over for like swerving or, you know, running a stoplight or whatever, and they would pull them out of the car and tell them that they had to do a field sobriety test and failed, following the finger and standing on 1 or 2 feet and waddling like a duck. Then they took them to jail. They tell them to turn around and put their hands behind their back. And it's like, whoa, a minute, where's the breathalyzer? You know? Tennessee. All over Tennessee, the entire state. Here we go. 600, and it was more than that in the report that I saw. 600 DWI wrongful Tennessee. Tennessee. Woo, I swear like a whore in church. It says they uncovered more than 600 cases of sober drivers, and this is between 2017 and 2023. 31,567 people were arrested for TWI in Tennessee and had no alcohol, 0.00% in their bodies. That easy. Hasta mañana. I'll see you in a year when you get out of jail for doing. Like, seriously, that, talk about wrongful convictions. We got over 600 people. And 31,000. That was a real number. Hold on. I found it. So it says Lebanon. So it looks like there was a trucker that was stopped across the center line. The deputy wrote that Gray's eyes were red and slow to respond to questions. The affidavit reads that he showed signs of impairment in the field sobriety test. This was a truck driver. I don't know if y'all know, but a lot of truck drivers, they don't even touch alcohol. Because of their CDL, you don't want to risk it. So, yeah. So they placed him under arrest for driving under the influence because I didn't drink. Months later, his blood work was processed by the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, the TBI, and it showed that he neither had alcohol nor drugs in his system. And he says, I knew nothing was in my system. He was on his way to work to write checks for his employees at his trucking company when he was pulled over and accused of a DUI. I work for a living, driving a dump truck. This is my whole livelihood, he says. I was really afraid about losing my license. Gray is the latest sober driver found by the WSMV4 investigates to be arrested for DWI in Tennessee. The reporting found a backlog of alcohol and toxicology tests at the TBI means innocent drivers are losing their jobs and insurance while they wait to clear their names. Guilty until proven innocent, right? That does not include those arrested in 2024 who was sober. Xavier was arrested on May 17th of 2024. So they just arresting people everywhere for nothing. There's an average of 15,000 DWIs a year in this area. How scary. So it says, having documented so many cases, the investigation filled out open records requests for a month asking the TBI for blood work data over the past 7 years of all the people who were determined to have no alcohol or drugs in their system. The TBI repeatedly denied our request, stating that their investigative records are confidential. So then we asked for statistical data. The TBI responded by supplying a report generated according to the agency several months ago. That reported statistical data for all of the people who were arrested for DWI and the percentage of alcohol in their system at the time of their arrest. This document only details results related to alcohol. We do not maintain corresponding statistics for drug testing in DWI cases. An email from the TBI read, the document shows between 2017 and 2023, 31,567 people were arrested for DWI in Tennessee and had no alcohol, 0.00% in the base. 31,567. That's a whole city. So, however, it does not include the data on how many of the 31,567 people were found to have been impaired by drugs, either illegal or prescribed. So it says the TBI. So the investigators then asked the TBI if they would determine how many of the 31,567 people had no drugs in the system as well. The TBI spokesman said that they were working to try to compile data. On Friday, November 4th, WSMV4 Investigates received an email detailing over 609 cases. What idiots, first of all. You knew that they was going to print this shit. Well, you just gave it to them anyways, right? I mean, way to just tell that you don't know how to do your job. Imagine all the people that lost everything because they were fighting a DWI case that they didn't even do. A lot of people, they can't make bond. When they go to jail, they lose everything. That's their home, their car, their job, everything. If they sit in jail waiting for a DWI case, that's a year. You're sitting for a year. I mean, luckily, when you go in front of a judge, you'll get time served if you're a first offender. But it will ruin your life. And then when you get out of jail, if you're like me and you don't have family and you don't have anybody, what do? You can't start. There is no way. You don't have the resources to start over. And the community centers that are supposedly set up to help you with resources are BS. So, this is crazy, y'all. How many officers was that? Does anybody have a clear number? That was like 5,000 officers, wasn't it? And that was only in like a 12 to 15 year time period. And those are just the ones that we know are corrupt, that went to jail for messing with children or messing with other women or laundering money, stealing stuff, like, it's just crazy. Imagine getting pulled over pops and getting robbed. Some of them were. It's wild. So scary. You get pulled over, you're like, yeah, I'm sorry I was speeding. He's like, no, give me all your shit. And hop in the back seat so I can take advantage of you. Y'all know I've had some weird cop interactions. That one cop at the river, that really scared me that one time when he started hitting on me and we was out in the middle of nowhere and it was dark. I said, oh Lord, this is the perfect scenario for me to go missing. I'm going to get killed out here. He going down, throw my body in the river. Crazy. I got something in my eye. Makeup. Kind of hungry, so that's probably what I'm about to go do, is either find somewhere to cook or find something to eat. I need to cook something because I'm broke. That's how it be. I don't think I've eaten out since we got that stove. I haven't eaten out since we got that stove. I've been cooking everything fresh, which is fine. I don't mind that, but it does get, you have to pick up things to like cook things, so it can get expensive too. But yeah. I'm glad that I took care of my car today, cleaned everything out, getting the laundry done. Oh, tomorrow's Friday and I'm ready for the weekend because this week has been stressful as hell. Like beyond stressful. I'm over it. But it's okay. Maybe next week will be better. I don't know. At least my nails look cute. I painted. I found that under the seat. That's raggedy as hell. I said, ooh, it's probably the best bottle I have. It's all tearing apart. It's disgusting. I've been doing self-care emails and I'm about to run in here and use the bathroom. I hope you guys have a good day. Yep, it is. Everything's expensive. I hope you guys have a good day, and be safe out there, and we'll talk tomorrow. Y'all be safe. Love you guys. Pray for me because God knows I need it, and I'm praying for you guys. Bye.